A long time ago, in the quiet village of Umuokoro, there came a day brighter than any the people had ever seen. The sun rose gently over the red earth, and the air carried the sweet smell of roasted yam and palm wine. Birds sang joyfully from the treetops as if they too were part of the celebration. It was the wedding day of Adako, the beloved daughter of Mazi Okorie. Mazi Okorie was a hard-working farmer and a respected man in Umuokoro. His barns were always full, and his words carried weight among the elders. But inside his strength lived a quiet pride that often showed in the way he spoke. His compound was wide, with a tall Iroko tree standing proudly in the center, a symbol of his confidence and success. Adako was the jewel of Umuokoro, gentle, graceful, and soft-spoken. Her beauty was said to calm even the restless wind. Some people swore that when she walked through the village path, the sun itself paused to watch her pass. That morning, the drum beat louder than thunder, and laughter rolled across the hills. From dawn till dusk, Mazi Okorie's compound overflowed with people, relatives, friends, and neighbors, all dressed in bright colors and wide smiles. Women sang in high voices, while young men danced to the rhythm of the drums. Everyone wanted to witness the marriage of the girl, whose name had become a song on every lips. When the groom's family arrived, the villagers gasped in admiration. They came with trucks filled with bride prize gifts, yams, palm oil, goats, rice, wrappers, drinks, and a thick envelope of money. It was more than anyone had ever seen in Umuokoro. Mazi Okorie stood tall among his kinsmen, smiling proudly as the wealth was counted. His heart swelled with joy and pride. "No man will ever take my daughter cheaply," he said loudly, his chest lifted. "Her beauty and manners are worth more than silver and gold." The people clapped and cheered, but an old woman sitting quietly by a tree shook her head and whispered, "When a man raises the price of his daughter too high, the gods may ask him to pay it back in tears." Her words were lost in the noise of celebration. That night, the compound overflowed with song and laughter. Palm wine flowed freely, dancers stamped their feet, and Mazi Okorie danced like a king. He did not know that what he celebrated so proudly that day would one day grow into sorrow into his own house. When the time came for Adako to leave, her mother, Nneka, wept as she hugged her tightly. "Go well, my daughter," she whispered. "Be patient. May your husband's home be warm and full of peace." Adako smiled through her tears and entered the waiting vehicle beside her new husband, Chibuzo. Her father stood by, smiling with pride as the car disappeared down the dusty road. Life in the city began beautifully. Adako admired the busy streets, the tall houses, and the smell of roasted corn on every corner. Chibuzo was kind at first, always busy with his trading business, but he came home with gifts and laughter. At night, they shared meals and talked about the future. But as the months passed, the laughter began to fade. Chibuzo became short-tempered and distant. He began to remind Adako of how much he had spent to marry her. Whenever she made a mistake, he would snap. "You think I paid all that money for nothing?" Each word pierced her heart. The more she tried to please him, the more he used his wealth to remind her she was bought, not loved. Still, Adako said nothing. She smiled when she had to and cried quietly at night. One morning, she discovered she was with child. When she told Chibuzo the news, he looked at her coldly and said, "A child? So now I will feed two mouths that cost me a fortune?" His words broke her spirit, but she said nothing. She turned away quietly, her hand resting on her belly as tears filled her eyes. From that day, Adako carried both her sorrow and her pregnancy alone. Though Chibuzo no longer has love and affection for Adako, the life she carried inside her gave her strength. Some nights, she whispered to her unborn child, "You will not suffer as I suffered, my child." To survive, Adako began selling small bowls of pap and roasted yam to neighbors in the compound. Sometimes she washed clothes for other women just to buy soap and oil. The work was hard, but she found strength in it. Each time she wiped sweat from her forehead, she murmured, "You will never know hunger, my child, not while I still breathe." When her time came, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The baby's cry filled the room like a song of hope. She named him Obinna, meaning father's heart. A prayer that love might one day return to her home. When news reached the village, Nneka prepared for the omowo. She packed yams, dried fish, palm oil, wrappers, and soap. She hummed softly as she arranged the items in her basket, praying her daughter's home would be peaceful. The day she arrived in the city, Adako's face lit up with relief. "Mama," she cried, running into her mother's arms. "My daughter," Nneka said, smiling warmly, "I am here. You will not go through this alone." During her stay, Nneka saw things that made her uneasy. Chibuzo spoke to Adako with no tenderness. He came home late, sometimes ignoring mother and child altogether. At night when he was away, Adako sat beside her mother and whispered, "Mama, he no longer talks to me with love. He reminds me every day of what he paid. Even when I serve his food, he says it is not enough." Nneka listened in silence, then stroked her daughter's hand. "Marriage is not always smooth, my child. Be patient. Maybe he will come to his senses one day." Still, worry grew in Nneka's heart. When it was time to return to Umuokoro, Chibuzo gave her nothing, not even transport money. He had fed her and treated her politely, but she could feel his distance, like the cold wind in a warm room. Back in the village, Nneka told her husband everything she had seen. "Our daughter is not happy," she said softly. "That man treats her like a servant." But Mazi Okori waved her off with pride. "Stop worrying, woman. You women always see trouble where there is none." Chibuzo paid well. Let Adako learn to endure. A wife must stay where she is married. Nneka sighed quietly, knowing pride had already covered his ears. 2 years passed. Adako returned home one morning, carrying little Obinna on her back. Her eyes were swollen, her wrapper faded, her steps slow. When she entered the compound, her mother ran to her and hugged her tightly. "My child, what happened to you?" "I am fine, Mama," Adako said weakly. "I just want to rest." But Mazi Okori refused to show pity. "Go back and enjoy your marriage," he said. "That's what good wives do." Instead, Adako knelt down before Mazi Okori and pleaded, "Papa, please, let my son and I stay in the village for a while." But Mazi Okori turned his face away from Adako. He refused to be moved by the tears that flowed down her face. Nneka helped Adako to rise up and led her and her child inside. Pride overwhelmed Mazi Okori, but deep inside, however, his conscience began to trouble him. Every time he looked at her, he remembered that day of pride and boasting. The joy he once felt began to taste like ashes. Soon, the villagers heard that Chibuzo had taken another woman. People whispered that Adako's bride price had become her curse, that the same wealth that made her father proud had now chained his daughter in sorrow. Not long after, Mazi Okori fell ill. His nights were restless. His farm produced nothing and his goats stopped giving birth. He began to believe that his daughter's tears were speaking against him before the ancestors. One night, feverish and weak, he called his wife. "Nneka," he said, "I have sinned against our child." He confessed that when Chibuzo's people brought the bride price list, he had secretly added more, a white goat and a bag of cowries, just to show that his daughter was worth more than any other. From that day, he whispered, I saw an angry ancestor beside a dried stream. Since then, my harvest has died. I sold my child's peace for pride. He asked for Adako. When she came, he held her hand with trembling fingers. Forgive me, my daughter. Your tears have opened my eyes. No amount of money can buy the peace I have lost. That same night, as the moon glowed softly over the compound, Mazi Okori breathed his last. The cock crowed before dawn, and the villagers said the gods had taken him after hearing his confession. Adako wept bitterly. Her pain mixed with compassion, for even in her sorrow, she still loved her father. But deep within, she knew his death carried a message that greed has a price no man can afford. After the burial, her heart was broken but strong. One cool morning, she took Obinna, now a lively boy of 4, by the hand and walked to the elders gathered under the great Iroko tree. They looked up as she approached, the basket she carried swinging gently at her side. I have come, she said softly, to return part of my bride price. The elders murmured among themselves in surprise. No woman has ever done that, one of them said. Adako nodded. I know, but I want peace, not anger, not shame. Peace for myself and for my father's spirit. She knelt before them and placed a small woven basket filled with cowries on the red earth. This is not for Chibuzo's people, she said. It is for the land to close what pride once opened. For a moment, the elders were silent. Then the oldest among them, Mazi Ogbuefi, raised his hand and said, Let it be so. The land accepts your peace. A calm breeze swept through the air. The elders murmured short prayers, and for the first time since her wedding day, Adako felt her heart grow light again. She rose, took her son's hand, and walked home slowly beneath the golden sunlight. Behind her, the basket of cowries remained at the foot of the Iroko tree, a quiet sign that the curse had been broken. Life gradually found its rhythm once more. Adaku began a small trading business in the village. She raised Obinna with love, teaching him that respect and kindness were worth more than riches. Though her heart carried scars, her spirit found peace. Each evening, she sat by the stream, watching the sun sink behind the hills. The gentle water reflected her calm face as she whispered, "Freedom sometimes comes after pain, and love should never be measured in money." And so, the curse that once held her family captive was broken, not by rituals or sacrifices, but by truth, humility, and courage. The story of Adako and her bride price became a lesson passed from mothers to daughters and from fathers to sons. It reminded everyone that when greed enters a celebration, joy quietly walks away. But tell me, do you think Adako's story truly ended there? What became of the man who once called her his wife? Did peace reach his heart the same way it reached hers, or was fate still waiting to teach him a lesson of its own? We will find out in part 2, The Return of Chibuzo. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Please give it a like, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so by now. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. Thank you for watching. And remember, every tale carries a lesson if only we choose to listen. Until I bring another true life tale your way, goodbye and remain blessed.